Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to week 10. This week we're going to be talking about savings and different savings instruments. And so it's going to be an interesting week for us. It's something you may already know about many of these savings instruments, but hopefully there are some new things that you learn, especially in regards to bonds and some of the different products that we'll discuss. So let's dive in and take a look at what we have going on. As always, we can click on the Content tab and then drop down here. If you select week 10 directly, it'll give you a summary of what you have available for the week. This week is a little different. I want to point out that 2 of our assignments are due on Saturday, and 2 of them are due on Monday. So the discussion boards and the quiz are due on Saturday. The free write and the larger activity, their savings and checkings activity, is due on Monday. So please be aware of that. All right, let's dive right in and take a look at what we have for each of these. The first section is about our reading portion that goes through savings. And they're really stressing that you understand the rights that you have and the responsibilities that are associated with modern electronic banking especially. They mention some different types of savings accounts, regular savings, money market savings, certificates of deposit, which of course is not actually a savings account, but a contract you sign essentially giving money to the bank for a certain fixed period of time, often 6 months to 5 years. The certificate of deposit, the interest rate will increase, generally speaking, the longer period of time you lock into. So if you lock in for 6 months or a year, you generally have a fairly low return. Bond accounts, which bonds are actually a debt, you actually become a debt owner. So you're lending someone money, and they're promising to repay a fixed interest rate back to you. So in some cases there are penalties for early withdrawal from bonds accounts, just like there are for CDs, because it is a contract. It's different from a savings account. And then a 401k and retirement savings. So just to understand that there's different ways for you to set money aside, and really what you need to think about is what is it you're trying to do. You know, if you have emergency savings that are set aside for a vehicle or something like that, or for car repairs, and you stick that into a bond account or a 401k, that's not going to be very helpful to you, because when an emergency comes up, you'd have to pull those out and suffer pretty severe penalties to get access to the funds, or sell bonds in this case to get access to just a portion of the funds. So you need to ask yourself what it is you're trying to accomplish with the money, and that should help steer you on what kind of a savings instrument you would use. Long-term things like retirement, then obviously a 401k or an IRA could be an excellent option, but not a good option at all if you're trying to do something like provide for emergency savings or to prepare to buy a house, unless it's like a Roth IRA, but they don't actually get into all the specifics on those. And then they want you to understand the Electronic Funds Transfer Act. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for just a second so you can see the other portions here. So that's just really detailing the fact that the Electronic Fund Transfer Act details specific things that every bank has to disclose when you sign on an agreement with them in regards to opening up a checking or savings account. And so you want to get in and understand what the bank will and won't protect, because it can vary from bank to bank. The Act does not standardize how they protect you. It simply requires them to disclose how they would protect or how they would respond to certain situations. So understand what it is that's going on, how transfer of electronic funds work, what rights you have in resolving disputes, how much information you can get, how often you can use it, all those kinds of things. Alright, so that's our reading portion. So after you've taken the time to complete the reading portion, go ahead and take the quiz. Again, as always, I encourage you to take that early. Really, there is no reason to be submitting quizzes late. You can take the quiz as soon as you've read the information, and you'd want to read the information before you do the assignments anyway. So most of those quizzes should be submitted fairly early in the week, by Tuesday or Wednesday, because you've just taken care of it. So let's talk about our big assignment for the week, the activity. So the first part of the activity is calculating the percentage of your income that you currently save. Calculating a percentage is very straightforward. You take the portion and you divide it by the whole. So it says calculate the percentage of income that you currently save. If you save $50 a month and you make $1,000 a month, you would take the portion, which is 50, and divide it by the whole, which is 1,000, and that would give you the percentage of income that you currently save. All right, so if there's any questions on how to do that, just remember we're taking the portion and dividing by the whole. The next portion on here is you're going to identify the goals you have for saving and determine how much savings you need to accomplish and achieve those goals. I would like to see 3 goals. Now, when it says here to identify the goals, just because those goals don't show up, uh, it does kind of come up in 3, but I want to know what those 3 goals are so that we can actually show that you've completed the assignment. You looked at something, so you need to decide what it is you're saving for, if it's a car, if it's a house, if it's to pay off your um, student loans, if it's retirement, if it's to go on a trip, whatever it may be, buy a new TV, a mattress, and then how much you need to save to accomplish that. So you've got to say, hey, I need to save, $1,000 for my new mattress, or $5,000 for my car, whatever it may be. Okay, so I want the specifics. What is the goal? How much the amount is? And you need at least three of them. All right, you're going to use this knowledge then to create a personalized savings plan. So the idea is, of course, savings plan implies that you're looking at your current budget and saying, well, how much would I need to set aside to accomplish some of these things? I recognize as students we may not be in a position to save for retirement or for large purchases like cars very easily, but I want you to think about that concept of seeing how much you would need to save and creating savings as if it were a bill. Say, oh, well, I need to save $100 a month because I have this time frame and this is the amount that I need. And so that's one way to approach it. But make sure that you determine what you need here. And tell me what that plan is. So the plan should reflect something along the lines of, I need to save X number of dollars for X number of months to accomplish my goal. Fairly straightforward. All right, then you're going to answer those questions. So far, you've calculated the percentage you currently save, and you're going to tell me what that is. You're going to identify the goals that you have for saving, 3 goals. You're going to tell me how much you need to save each month and for how long to accomplish your goals. And then you're going to answer those 4 questions. All right, so that should be fairly straightforward for you. The next step is to go ahead and talk to 3 banks or credit unions and ask about different types of checking accounts they have. So you're going to tell me which 3 banks or credit unions you have spoken to. And it's given us some rules here. The rules are you're pretending, at the very least, you can't have more than $200 on deposit. They do this because some banks have limitations on the minimum balance that has to be on there. You're telling them that you do not own a car that you can use to drive the bank, so that should imply that obviously you need to choose banks that are close to you or close to where you work or have some kind of access point, and identify the type of checking account institution that you would choose based on those circumstances. And you're going to explain your choice in several paragraphs. Several implies more than one, so it's okay if it takes you 3 or 4 paragraphs to tell me a little bit about it. The final portion is to go to the websites for online banking services. And what they're really looking for then is for you to compare those offers to the ones that you found from your local banks and credit unions and say which you would use and why. Are you going to use an online service? What about the local ones? What is it about other institutions that made you decide not to choose them? Answers again in a paragraph. So if you say I didn't choose them because I didn't like their product, that doesn't tell me anything. You can say that I didn't choose them because this bank, and you would be specific, Zions Bank or whatever, Chase, had a higher fee for this, or did not offer overdraft protection, or whatever it is that influenced your decision on that section. And you would write those answers out. All right, so we've got some very specific things that I've outlined there, and what I'm looking for the assignment. Should be fairly straightforward. Just make notes for each step along the way, and you will see full points. All right, next section here is 30 points. This is our activity for discussion. This one's fairly straightforward. First, we're being asked to look at this article from Maurice, and it's talking about financial security and kind of the double-edged sword that we have in regards to our financial records. It's very easy for us to and convenient for us to use the electronic transfer of funds. However, each time we make a transaction, it makes a record. And so Maurice is looking at how that can impact us in our lives and legislation that has been pushed to try and deal with some of that. So read through the Maurice article, and then by Tuesday you need to talk about what your opinion is of Maurice's point of view and whether or not you believe that laws can be passed to assure consumers that information being gathered can only be used in ethical ways. Now, I want to point something out here. This is 30 points, and if you look at the grading rubric, 20 points of that is coming to questions 1 and 2. So if you say, what is your opinion of Murick's point of view, I agree with him, and you don't say anything else about it, you are not going to get 10 points for answering question 1 and just saying that you agree. You need to tell me specifics on why you agree. It's worth 10 points. Yeah, you've got to tell us a little bit more than just a sentence. So that's the validate your responses section. You're going to respond, and that's due by Tuesday. Then you're going to respond to other students, of course, to at least 2 others' posts. When you respond, I would encourage you to ask questions about what the students have looked at, because that helps to engage in further conversation. I will point out that it also says that we should be tracking the discussion daily this week. So again, it implies that you're checking in at least once a day and that you're responding to the students who've responded to you, and there's back and forth. The easiest way to do that is to subscribe to the posts so that you know when they have responded and the grading rubric has been provided. Alright, excellent. So we've talked about that. The final one is, of course, free write. And so again, very straightforward. Take 10 minutes, please, and just tell me a little about 2 things you learned from the lesson and insights you gained. If you only tell me about concepts and principles you've learned and not from any insights, you will not gain full credit for the assignment. If you submit 5 lines and tell me that it took you 10 minutes to write it, you probably will not get full credit for the assignment. So please just take the time to write that. 10 minutes is not a lot to ask, and I know I'm interested in seeing what you've learned and how you've seen some of those principles in your life. The last thing I want to really stress is the importance of savings. You know, often we think about savings as something that we just set aside for a rainy day. I want to throw out a couple of different examples. I want to say, well, what example would be baseball? I don't play a lot of baseball myself, but when a relief pitcher, so you've got the starter, the person who begins the game pitching, but at some point, if the starter has to leave the game, they bring in a second pitcher, call him a relief pitcher. And when the relief pitcher comes in, if his team wins, the relief pitcher is given what is called a save. It's called a save. And the relief pitcher's job is twofold. If his team is already ahead, his job is to protect the lead. If his team is behind, his job is to minimize the damage by keeping them from getting any fewer runs to give his team the opportunity to get ahead. And if they succeed, that is called a save. I want you to think about that, a save. The other thing is, what does a lifeguard do when someone's in trouble? Well, a lifeguard saves them. I'm here to tell you that your savings are here to save you. They're here to literally save you from dipping into your retirement and damaging your future opportunities. They're here to save you from going into debt and taking on loans at a much higher interest rate than you would otherwise have to. Savings are an integral part of what we do. And I want to give an example of that. In 3rd Nephi, the Gideon robbers had once again, it's the 2nd time in the Book of Mormon where they have risen up. And they, of course, have their leaders, Zerahemnah, and the Gideon robbers in this particular section they've gone up to the mountains, and they would come out from the mountains and they would raid and attack the Nephites. So the Nephites do something interesting. They take all of their sustenance. They take everything and gather it together and in one place. So they pull in all of their food and all their cattle, and they have this huge store of goods that are available only to them. And because of this, when the Lamanites come, the Nephites just go to their security, to their stronghold, and when the Lamanites come, they can't stay in the land for long. It's hard for them. They can't gain meat in the wilderness, and they're about to perish. And what happens is they don't have enough food to actually keep the Nephites to destroy them. So the Nephites are there, they might try and lay siege to them, but because they have not prepared, the Gideon robbers cannot stay. And when their men would leave to go to the forest to hunt, the Nephites would come out of their city and they would attack them and destroy them. Because the Nephites had enough food in store, because they had enough savings in store, their enemies had no power over them to destroy them. Think about that. They did not have power over them because they had prepared sufficiently and set enough aside. That is what we are talking about. It is saving sufficiently that an emergency or an illness or a debt does not have power over us, that we can resolve that instead of being beholden to it. Brothers and sisters, I love you. I look forward to seeing your posts on the discussion boards. If you have questions, please contact me. And I know that as you think about the principles of the gospel and how our preparations now save us and provide us with future opportunity, you can recognize how that parallels with the savings and preparations we do, be it in food storage or in money, to protect us as the prophet has asked. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.